Assalamu alaikum. I'm Irfan Awan. I'm going to explain about the IELTS Life Skills A1 Speaking and Listen test in this video. Basically, A1 test is a preliminary test of English. It's the assessment of speaking and listening. And why this test is conducted? This test is conducted basically for getting UK spouse visa, and this is an assessment of the English language on the basis of two modules that are speaking and listening. So this is a test which is not very difficult. It is a test of your basic understanding of English. Basically, it's about how you convey messages, and when native speakers talk in English and even you listen English, then how you understand that English if successfully and effectively. So I'm going to explain about different features of this test in detail, and I'll refer to the details now in on the board. Okay, so as far as this test introduction, it is speaking and listening test. You're assessed in speaking and listening. 75% of this test is speaking, and 25% of the test is assessed in listening skill. And there are different steps in this test, different sections in this test. First, when you appear in front of the examiner, it's face-to-face interview. An examiner in the first part asks you some questions about your likes and dislikes, about your family, about your home town, and your educational background, your hobbies. So those are quite personal questions and easy to answer them. And so you need to understand the questions well, and accordingly you answer the questions. It's important. And this test actually is not that C2 or C1 or B2 B1 level test. It's just the preliminary test of English, and A1 assessment, A1 level assessment is there in this test. And in part 1, you have conversation with the examiner. You're asked different questions on topics of general interest. Examiner may ask you questions like, where do you come from, how do you spell your name, and describe about your house, then tell me about the place where you live, right, and tell me about your siblings and what they do, different such type of questions. And where do you usually shop from, okay, how do you spend your weekend, then the questions may be about how old are you, what are your hobbies, what do you like to do in free time. All such type of questions are given there in part 1. And as far as speaking, again in part 2, it's basically a pair work. You and your counterpart talk to each other, and you both are given topics, different topics, and you are supposed to develop a conversation in part 2 of the test. That basically is speaking assessment. In that, topics may be different, and there's a list of topics with them, and they keep on updating those topics. But you actually it's important that you have the idea of framing questions, that you have the idea of how to ask questions, how to answer questions. Basically, assessment is on how you develop questions, how you convey your message, and how you understand what others talk to you, what others say. So in this there may be many topics, like we have shopping, traveling, vacation, mobile phones, marketing, education, culture, festivals, weekends, right, news, flyovers, and so on. In part 3, that is listening assessment, there are 2 clips played, and each clip is of 30 seconds. Total duration is 1 minute, and there are 2 candidates. There's candidate 1, candidate 2. There's recording 1, recording 2, a recording A, a recording B. Then after that recording is played, they're asked questions. Before that, even they are told about the questions, that what are the questions going to be asked. So listen carefully, note the questions, listen recording, and then you're shown pictures. And a common question is asked that there are 3 pictures. Out of those 3 pictures, according to what you have listened, which about the talking about the recording is about which picture. So you're supposed to tell the right answer. And at least there are 2 questions asked on each recording, and you're asked questions about both recordings, recording 1 and recording 2, recording A or B. And then in part 3, in part 4, It is developing a conversation on one topic. A topic is given, and then you actually respond to what your partner says, what your the other candidate asks you, and you ask questions, and the other candidate, your partner, is supposed to answer those questions as well. And you need to be quite prompt in framing questions. The effective way of framing questions is that you ask questions with WH words. Like if you are not sure about the questions, you think questions difficult to format or to make questions, then you can ask questions with WH words. It's an effective and easy strategy of asking questions. Okay, and then there are the be calm and cool, be confident in the test. This test is basically conversation. It's based on speaking and listening, and you are not stressed with what you are supposed to write. And even if you have a stationary paper with you, you have stationery, you have a pencil, so that is for your convenience, that if you write any points, you think about any points, because they give you time in section 2. They give you time 90 seconds to jot down at least 5 questions. An examiner may ask you more than 5. If you finish your question answers quickly, then the examiner may ask you to ask more questions. So it's developing conversation with your present mindedness, with your promptness. You can ask questions and ask good intelligent questions. Then yes, be in positive mode and be very clear as far as your pronunciation is concerned. They don't expect from you that you would talk like native speakers, but be clear and be correct. This is required there. And listen the topics carefully. According to the questions asked, try to answer. Okay, and keep your cool and calmness. Right, be cool and calm. Don't be in panic, because when you're in panic, you're nervous. Then actually you can't do your best. Right, you forget many things. And topics actually are changed, and you have acquired that ability with practice, with intensive training, that you may develop conversation on any topic. Like sometimes candidates are blank when they're asked about, they're given different topics such as appointment, things, people, and they get confused what to ask and how to develop conversation on that, because of that stress which they have on their mind. So remove that stress and be ready for all types of topics to develop conversation on them. And practice makes the man perfect. So it's important that you practice a lot before you go to the test and appear in the test. And so these are some important features of this test. And I finish my lesson here. Thank you.